ท่านผู้ชมครับวันนี้ผมมีแขกพิเศษมากๆเรียกว่าเป็นอาจารย์โปรดของผมเลยก็ว่าได้ครับท่านชื่อว่าดรเชอรี่เทนเพนนีครับคุณหมอท่านหนึ่งนะครับที่ศึกษาเรื่องวัคซีนมายาวนานกว่า20ปีไม่ใช่แค่เรื่องของวัคซีนโควิดนะครับแต่วัคซีนทั้งหมดที่ผ่านมาท่านมีความรู้ที่เยอะมากๆครับถ้าเราพร้อมแล้วไปเริ่มกันเลยครับสวัสดีครับดรเชอรี่เทนเพนนี
สวัสดีค่ะ
Welcome to this show, and we are very glad to have you here. So, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, I would like to request you to introduce yourself to a bit to the Thai audience, so that the Thai audience know you more, please.
Okay. Well, I live in Ohio. I was born and raised in Ohio. I currently live in Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up on a farm. I grew up, my father was a chiropractor, so I grew up doing that. I went to medical school in Missouri. I became a medical doctor in 1985. I was board certified in emergency medicine, and I was the director of an emergency medicine department for 12 years. In 1996, I moved to Cleveland, where I am now, and opened my integrative medicine practice, which I'm always proud to say we've had people from all 50 states and almost 20 countries to come to see us in our clinic to get well and get rid of their allergies and just get overall wellness, because that's what we do. In September of 2000, I went to the National Vaccine Information Center meeting in Washington, D.C., and learned a whole lot of things about vaccines that I had no idea about. And I came home from that meeting and said, wow, I think I should look into this. And the farther I looked into it, the deeper down the rabbit hole I went, so to speak. The more that I learned about it, the more that I found that vaccines are not safe. They don't keep you from getting sick. They're not necessary, and they definitely cause harm. And so I've been doing that now for almost 22 years. And when COVID came 2 years ago, it was just a natural extension for me to start talking about the COVID shots, because, I've been investigating this for a really long time and found the same thing. Only the COVID shots are more diabolical. They're worse because it's an experimental drug, never been used in humans before. The more that we find out about what these shots are actually doing inside of the human body, the more despicable it becomes to me. And so I've spent all of 2020 and all of 2021 doing interviews like this or podcasts. I have my own podcast, and so I was inviting people into my podcast. And just to give your audience just sort of a view of how much work I've done in the last 2.5 years, is that I normally do about 30 interviews a year. So 2 or 3 a month is usually what I do. In 2020 and 2021, I did over 600. Sometimes I was doing 6 and 7 interviews in one day, just to kind of get the information out as fast and as far and as wide as we could, to let people know about the myth of the mask, how the masks don't do anything except make the people who wear them sick, about the nonsense of social distancing. I mean, the most stupid concept they've ever come up with, to tell people how dangerous the PCR testing is, and to do my very, very best, me and my team, to do our very best to try to get people to not take this shot. Don't do it out of fear. Don't do it for convenience, and don't be coerced. Hold your line and find another way to exist and another tribe of people to be with without being injected with these very horrible shots.
I believe when you said that you have been doing 600 interviews, because I actually contacted you first by email, and that was in mid of Jan, and I got I got to interview you today, mid of May, and I've been eagerly waiting for this. So, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, the things that I wanted to talk to is more related to women's health, because of all the doctors and scientists I've interviewed so far are usually men. So you're the first lady doctor that I'm interviewing, and I think it would be better. Yes. So I thought, maybe we could give more information about more of the women and kids side. And before I start, I would like to show you some stats in Thailand.
Okay.
So people in Thailand have been dying at a rate of 10% higher rate, and this information was actually sitting quietly in the database of the government statistics until a medical doctor here in Thailand, his name is Dr. Atapon, he actually went in and got this stats out, and I'm gonna show it to you because I also wanted to ask that what's actually happening in your country, and this is what's happening here in Thailand. As you can see, this is the death rate of Thai people during the year before these shots were rolled out. And then ever since it came out, people started dying at a higher rate. You can see it very, very clearly. And then this one is this line is the death rate of the total number of deaths of Thai people in 2021. This line is for 2022. So we can clearly see that it is shooting up, a very clear difference here. And not just that, even for the Thai teachers, because many Thai teachers here do not want to take the shot, but then they are being coerced into. And this blue line shows pre-shot, and then you can see that the death rate is around 500 per month. And when they started rolling out the shots, you can see that it had gone up. Now we are having around 800 plus per month. So from average of 500 to 800, that's like 20-30%. It's very clear that people are dying, but let me just ask you, what is the scene or the scenario in your country?
The same, probably even worse.
People are dying.
I mean, people are dying from the shots, and there's actually in May, it was a year ago right now, it was May of last year, May of 2021, I did a webinar called The 20 Mechanisms of Injury, How the COVID Shots Can Make You Sick or Kill You. And I did it on a bad weekend. It was Mother's Day weekend here in the US, and everybody was busy with their events. And so people came back to me and said, could you do it again? Because I couldn't attend, and could you do it again? So we set it up for July, 2 months later. And between May and July, I identified 20 more mechanisms of injury. So there were a total of 40 that I did in July. So I created 2 ebooks that are available on our website on drtenpenny.com on the 20 mechanisms of injury of how the COVID shots can make you sick or kill you, and 20 more mechanisms of injury. And so you can you can take those 40 mechanisms of what happens inside of your body from the shots and divide the death rate into 4 categories. Category 1 is acute deaths. That's like anaphylactic shock, strokes, heart attacks that happen within the first 48 hours of getting one of the shots. That's the acute injury. So a lot of people say, well, nothing happened to me, so I must be okay. But then the second wave that you see this big shoot up in the first 48 hours. Then it kind of goes like this. And then there's a second big peak at about 14 days. And that 14-day death peak was so high here in the US that it actually, the CDC went back and changed the definition of what it meant to be vaccinated. So if you died within 14 days of getting your shot, they said that you really died of a COVID infection and you were unvaccinated, to try to bury the stats, no pun intended, but to try to shut down the stats of what was happening on that second peak. So the first wave is acute injuries. The second is what's happening in about 14 days. The third is what's happening long-term, the cardiovascular side effects, the neurological side effects, and the autoimmune diseases. The cardiovascular side effects or the neurological side effects people start seeing within about 3 to 4 months of getting the shots. And those are tremors, seizures, weakness, numbness and tingling, neuropathies, all these things. That happens usually within 3 to 4 months of getting particularly the second shot and the boosters. The cardiovascular disease, all of the cardiologists that I've spoken to and are talking about this, they say it's within 3 years that we're going to see a massive number of people dying of cardiovascular injuries from these shots. Arrhythmias, congestive heart failure, cardiomyopathies, myocarditis, and on and on. But that takes a while for that deterioration of the heart muscle to actually happen. And then over the next 7 to 10 years, we're going to see almost everyone who's had these shots, whether it be 1 shot, 2 shots, 2 shots and a booster, are going to see some form of autoimmune disease kick up in their body. Because now we know the messenger RNA continues to replicate. We know that the dendritic cells and the B cells are sensitized. So the next time they get just exposed to a garden variety coronavirus, they start making more spike proteins. There's more and more literature coming out now that says that once you've been injected, you're always injected, and you will continue to deteriorate your immune system because you break down your innate immune system and you break down your long-term immune system because of the effects of these shots, the lipid nanoparticles, and all of the other, graphene dioxide and the toxic lipid nanoparticles and the other things that are in the shots that we don't even know because they don't even tell us. We know that from the first Pfizer document that came out, that the courts here in the US forced them to release the documents. The first document is about 38 pages long, and the last 8 pages of that document, it lists more than 1,000 types of health conditions, autoimmune diseases, all kinds of things, cancer, all these things that they knew that they were seeing in their test subjects before they even released these shots out into the environment. And here in the US, we spend most of our time talking about Pfizer, secondarily Moderna, and now they just removed the J&J shot from the market here. And so, and we never used the AstraZeneca shot here in the US, which is the one they use more globally, because I personally think it's because it is the highest incidence of heart attacks, strokes, and blood clots of all 4 of them. So we're seeing a similar, that's a long-winded answer to your very direct question, but we're seeing a similar spike rate going up. The life insurance companies here in the country, in the US, are beside themselves because they have a 40% increase in death claims over the previous year in people between the ages of 18 and 64 that are not COVID related. So it's heart attacks, strokes, pulmonary emboli, cancer, multi-organ system failure, and on and on and on. These people between the ages of 18 and 64 are dying 40% more in 2021 than in 2022. And that's all-cause mortality. So it's really high, and it's not going to get any less. It's just not.
Yeah, it's always scary whenever I do research about this, whenever I listen to doctors, it always changes my mood, from a happy person, it depresses me. I have many questions for you, but then since we've started off with this, I would like to ask a bit about, you see, in Thailand, I don't know if we are lucky or not, but the first 2 shots have been Sinovac and Sinopharm, which is, they call the dead virus. And that is not an mRNA vaccine, mRNA shot. So do you think the same death rate and the same, the 4 categories that you mentioned will still apply to the shots that the Thai people have taken, because this is not mRNA and it does not replicate, I guess?
Is that, I'm not familiar with those 2 particular brands, but are they manufactured the same way that the AstraZeneca and the J&J shots are? Do they use an adenovirus carrier?
Not really. So it is actually different. So they inject you. It is the traditional way of vaccine.
Okay.
The same old way.